Hi, it's Ian, and this is the second video in my Japanese knife sharpening fundamentals tutorial series. On the previous video, we talked about supplies and things we're working on, things to look out for, why we sharpen, things like that. So if you haven't seen it, make sure you go back and look at that before continuing here. So previously we worked on burr formation on this bottom third or so of the knife, and I'm feeling a nice burr. It's very strong here. This is there, but it's a little weak, and there's a little bit from here to here there's a burr, but it's weak, and then from here on there's nothing since I haven't worked on it. And flipping it over, you can kind of see what's going on. So hopefully I can maintain the same angle, which on this knife, on this stone, was about 3/4 between the stone and the edge. So I think that's a better way to go rather than those guides that you can put on the blade. I'm not a huge fan because, again, that's only one angle, and every single knife will probably require something that's slightly different. So, but that might be a good starting point, 2 to 3/4 right here. I would recommend trying that. Okay, so I'm going to continue with my 2 fingers here, just above where the Sharpie is. I'm putting some pressure. It's not that much pressure, making sure that my stone is staying nice and wet, and continuing on. It's very important that your fingers, your left-hand fingers, are staying over the stone. So this is bad technique because the fingers are not always over the stone. Even worse technique would be to put pressure here and go like this. That's terrible because you're putting pressure here, and there's pressure here with your hand, and the middle point is the edge of the stone. So that would be a great way to make some very strange marks, and eventually you'd wear a V-shaped kind of chip-looking shape in your blade if you keep doing that. So we want to make sure to avoid that. Okay. Looking at the back to see what my angle is, if it's consistent or not. Looks pretty consistent. I'm feeling for the burr. Understand that the burr, we're not feeling for the burr this way, we're feeling for the burr this way. So I'm dragging my either finger or thumb this way, across this way. Because the burr is coming up this way, it's not like trying to feel like this. That will not tell you anything with burr formation. It's going this way. That's what we're trying to do. And sometimes if your fingers are full of slurry or they're wet, sometimes it's hard to feel. So here I have a wet towel and a dry towel, and sometimes I'll wipe my thumb so I can feel it. I can feel burr formation all the way up right now, and it stops here. So you might have noticed that as I was going here, I was walking my fingers up to try to get this middle section. So that's definitely speedier, and I'm used to doing that. But if you're not used to doing that, it's totally fine to do this section. And then if you feel comfortable of good even burr formation here, then you can reset your knife, keep it on the same angle, and then put it down and then go again. And once you feel the burr and it looks even on the Sharpie coming off, then you can lift it again, put it down, and then go to this section, and so on. So don't feel like you need to go fast. Don't feel like you need to walk your fingers until you're used to it. But in reality, when I'm sharpening my own knives, I might go like this, especially if it's a dull knife and I need to remove material very quickly, in which case I might go very quickly and walk my fingers back and forth like that. Another thing to think about, a good part of good technique is to try to use a bigger part of the stone. So one thing that, until you get control, it's easier to have smaller strokes, that's okay, but understand that the stone will wear more in the center. And that means that when you have to flatten it, eventually you'll need to take off more material here because you haven't taken it off with your knife. So you'll need to flatten more often, and you'll need to take off more material over time if you only use this smaller area. So it's always going to be this pattern between my palms where it's wearing. But if you try to use, and going slow is fine, if you try to use full strokes like this, that's teaching you better technique over the long run. And right here, I don't know if you can hear the sound difference. Not sure if you can see that this is drying out, and it's telling me right now that I need to add more water. So I'll do that, and you can hear a sound difference there, hopefully. So I've gone all the way to the tip. I will dry it off and examine. I can see that the Sharpie has gone all the way to the tip. It looks pretty consistent. And I'm feeling for the burr on the bottom side, or I can feel for the burr up here. I feel that it's pretty even. There's a little spot here that's slightly less of a burr, so I'll examine it. So once again, if it's your first time, it's very likely that your wear pattern will not be this even. And we need to understand that if all the Sharpie here was gone, then you were too flat. So for example, I will purposely go flat. And we'll see what happens. It's starting to wear off here. Looks like this area is a little bit hard to get, even on purpose, trying to make a mistake. But there's a small area on the Sharpie where it is starting to come off. A lot of times, if I went that flat on a knife, this would all be gone, and then you'd know that you need to stand up your knife more. Sometimes it's so bad that the very, very cutting edge, there's still Sharpie on it. Then you know that you're not even hitting. This is the cutting edge. And if there's still Sharpie left here, you know that you're only working on this area and you're not even hitting the edge. So there's no really sharpening going on. You're just thinning the knife. So, or you might have almost no Sharpie gone and only the very, very edge is gone, and that means that it's too high. So one more good thing, point with good technique is trying to avoid wobbling the knife. Wobbling, it's this kind of, it looks like that. So when you go out, it stands up more. When you come in, it lays down more like this. So that's obviously that's changing the angle constantly, and you won't be able to get a good consistent sharpening edge. So a little bit, of course, is natural and very normal when you're starting out, but if you can focus on trying to avoid the wobble. So look at the spine and see if you can see in the light, is the spine coming up and down? Is the light changing on the side of the knife? All these things will be telling you if it's wobbling or not. And the less wobble, the better. So that's something that we want to watch out for. Okay. So let's say the first side is done. It feels pretty even. The wear pattern is fairly even. It looks like it's a little flat on this side. I have a little bit more taken off, but I'm not really that concerned about that. I feel the burr completely. So we're going on the second side. So now the burr is up here. We're going to flip it over, and to do the second side, many knives we won't be able to sharpen in this angle initially because of the handle. So this one is especially, there's almost no space between the heel and where the handle starts, so it's especially difficult to do. This one is a little bit more forgiving, so it's easier to get it on the stone. But again, just like we talked about on the first side, We want to make sure we focus on keeping the heel on, having good technique, and only focusing on this bottom portion before moving on. So it kind of depends on the knife. This nakiri, again, the handle is extremely close to the heel, so we'll have to work extra hard to try to keep the heel on and change the angle a little bit this way. This santoku, like the gyuto, there's more space, so it's not quite as difficult. We can probably start with a 90-degree angle like this to the stone. So from here, when we switch, it's kind of the reverse, where the thumb will go on the spine, the first finger will go on the heel, and grabbing the handle here this way. And because this handle is so close to the heel, I'm going to go slightly more than 90 degrees here. And again, we're going to try to match the angle. If the first side was 3/4 between the spine and the stone, then we'll follow that. Another way we can feel this is put it there, and then I can feel, when I put my thumb on, I can feel about where it is. It's slightly more than halfway up. So if my thumb is divided in half, it's a little bit more, a tiny bit more higher angle to that. And that's what would be consistent from the first side. So this grip has changed. This angle has changed because we're accommodating to keep the heel on. Same thing here, though. We're keeping pressure with the first 2 or 3 fingers of the left hand, and I tend to put my other thumb on the spine to stabilize, because it's very easy to wobble in this configuration, this position. So I will do, once again, since we haven't taken off Sharpie on the second side, I will do about 10 strokes or so, wipe it off and examine to see if it looks similar to the other side. And I can see that it's basically there. It might be a little flat here, but it's pretty close. So the angle looks okay. Now I'm feeling for the burr. I already have burr formation here. So understand the second side is going to be much, much faster than the first side, because we already took off material from one side. So you have, in a way, thinned the very edge, and the second side, we should get a burr more quickly. So I just have a burr only here in the very bottom 1 centimeter or so, and nothing else yet. So I'm just going to continue again, trying to find that angle. I'm not that worried about the heel anymore, because I have good burr formation, so I can take the heel off, and now I feel for the burr formation is starting, but not quite as strong as the heel. Now it's getting very close to the heel. So up to here, I'm getting good burr formation. I'll confirm the Sharpie, making sure that it's about maybe 1.5 millimeters. So it looks pretty consistent on the second side. Feeling for the, so this very strong burr formation, I'm not going to keep this on the stone anymore, because there's no need to, unless I was trying to take off more material there. A few more strokes, I think. Okay, starting to come. Once I can get the handle in a better position right around here, I can go back to my 45-ish angle. That'll help avoid the wobble again, once again. So from here, it's going to go more to here, where the thumb, on this knife, I can put the thumb on the handle area, try to keep that same, about 3/4 worth of space between the stone and the spine. And notice that my left-hand fingers are traveling over the stone. I'm not really putting that much pressure on, because I'm focused more on just good technique, keeping the same angle, and I can see that it's staying consistent. The angle is staying consistent up to there. Feel for the burr. The burr is, it's not as strong as the heel, but it's all there. I'm pretty happy with it up to here. So I'll continue on here. Again, hopefully you can hear the difference in the sound. It's drying out, and now that's better. Very strong burr formation there. It's only missing just this area. Everything else, very, very strong. I think I just need to spend a few more strokes just in this area for whatever reason. Could just be the shape of this knife is inconsistent and it's a little bit harder to reach that area, but now I feel like it's all there. Okay, so now we started here on the first side, got good even full burr formation with even removal of Sharpie. Then we went on the second side, got the heel, eventually went all the way up, and now the burr has formed a little bit more strongly than the first side. Now it's on this side. So that's the main sharpening. Since we've confirmed that we got burr formation on both sharpening sides, now we know that we actually have an edge, and the next step is to clean it up before we can make it into a actual cutting edge. So we'll cover that on the next video.